It is week 2 of the college football season. We have an action-packed slate. We got 2 spreads, 3 totals, 2 player props, and an upset pick. We're putting a team on upset alert. It's Austin joined by Logan. Let's recap how we did last week. Early on the season, we've been mediocre. 500, both of us. I was 2-2 last week. Logan, you were 2-3. You moved to 4-4. I moved to 3-3. I mean, it's the first week or two of the season. It's really hard to get a gauge for what these teams are, but hopefully as the season goes on, we kind of learn how these teams play, and we have a pretty good season. But if you are new, my name's Austin. Like I said, Logan's to my right. We're going to have a great season tracking. Let us know your favorite picks down below, though. And of course, if you are new, hit that subscribe button, drop a like too. We certainly would appreciate it. Now, before I dive into the plays, I want to talk about all this. We have a bunch of different sportsbook sign-up bonuses down below, but the best one, in my opinion, is the one that Bet365 has for college football right now. You can get $365. That's not a lie. $365 in bonus bets. Here's how you do it. Claim top link in the description. Sign up using that one. Deposit $10. And then make a $1 money line bet on any team playing on Friday or Saturday in college football. Even if it loses, you get those $365 worth of bonus bets. So if you're in New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Colorado, Iowa, and any of those states, take advantage of it. You're leaving money on the table. Bet365. I have 2 plays on Bet365 later on in the video. Take advantage of it. But Logan, let's not worry about Bet365. You got to play, and I love your spread pick you're going with. Where are you going today?
Yeah, I'm going to a team that I don't think I've ever backed, but I really do like them in this spot. I'm taking the FAU Owls -3.5 on the spread. -108 odds on DraftKings, currently your best value there. Now, if you look at these two teams, they did play last year. Last year, Ohio won this game, an absolute shootout, 41-38. To me, FAU wins this time around in this matchup, and they will cover that spread. With the total being set to 61.5, I'm trusting the better offense in FAU to win this shootout. I just really do like FAU's offense. I like Casey Thompson at quarterback for FAU, obviously the transfer. He looked great last week. Look at his stats, 20 for 25, 280 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns against Monmouth. Yeah, wow, Logan, that was against Monmouth. That's still, you just got to play the teams on your schedule, and that's quite the tune-up game for FAU's offense. They put up 493 total yards last week, obviously against an inferior opponent, but I kind of like the fact that they had that tune-up game to get them ready to go in this matchup, because this is, if you're kind of looking at the FAU schedule, they don't play that many big-time opponents. So playing Ohio at home, a MAC team, I definitely think they could take care of business. And I actually do kind of have my slight concerns with Ohio's ability to keep up in this shootout. That's kind of, I think, what the pathway to victory for the win in the cover for FAU is going to be, just simply outscore Ohio. Ohio's defense, too. Last week, they gave up, or the first week of the season, they gave up 300 total yards to San Diego State in their game. And that's just, I don't think that's really going to cut it against FAU. I think they're going to be able to go all up and down the field. And I'm not really trusting. We've got conflicting injury reports. Curtis Rourke is probable. But of course, I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup or not. Maybe he is, maybe he's starting, maybe he's not. But he hasn't had time to really gel with this, offense. And I just kind of question that ability. I also question Ohio's red zone offense as well, because if you go back to that San Diego State game, they had 380 yards against San Diego State total, but only 13 points to show for it. I just can't really trust them to be that efficient. And if FAU's defense, they don't have to come out and play perfectly, because that's just not their calling card. But if they hold Ohio to a few of those red zone stops and hold them to 3 rather than 7, this should be a pretty easy FAU win and cover. I am really liking the Owls today, and I'll go ahead and take them laying the 3.5 points. But Austin, what's your first pick?
Yeah, Logan, love the pick. I'm going to dive into one of our totals. It's going to be the first one on my card. I'm going to Texas A&M in the Miami Hurricanes game, taking the under, 51.5 points, -115 on FanDuel. Obviously, we're recording this late Thursday night. Don't really know where the line ends up, but I imagine it ends up right around this line. It's at 3:30 p.m. on ABC, a big-time game for both these two teams, their first real game of the year, because last week, both teams had 2 easy weeks. You saw the Aggies take down New Mexico. Props to them. 52-10 is what you got to do against those bad teams. And you saw Miami beat Miami of Ohio 38-3. So what I like to look at those teams is sometimes you'll see teams put up a ton of points, but also give up some points in garbage time. But they're off. Their defenses were locked in. They only allowed 10 and 3 points. And while it's not the best competition, I like to see those defenses that are ready to go and they're locked in, regardless of what the score is on the scoreboard. They're trying to do their jobs out there. And we saw last year, these two teams did face off. That was at A&M. This one's in Miami. Saw a 17-9 final score. Now, I'm not saying this is the duplication of that game, because I would be very surprised if they combined for 20 26 points. But still, at the end of the day, it was a very low scoring game. The coaches obviously had the offense's number, and we saw a lower scoring game. And I just am not too confident both these two teams going out there and scoring and having as much success as they had in week one. You look at Connor Wegman, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's a Texas A&M quarterback. He's a sophomore, and he hasn't really played well on the road. Doesn't have a lot of starts to his name on the road. In fact, these last two starts last year, or two games he played in, 22 for 51, completing 43% of his passes for 212 yards and a touchdown. He really struggled on the road. Now, obviously, the first game was at home. Can he do it on the road in Miami? I expect a big crowd here, 3:30 p.m. ABC game. A lot of Miami fans are going to show up. I don't know if he's going to have a big day. On the other side, Taylor Van Dyke has a lot more starts to his name, the Hurricanes QB, but he's also been a guy that has struggled, against big-time competition. He's always padding his stats against the bad teams, and he struggled versus A&M last year. You saw him go 21 for 41, just 51% completion for 217 yards. Now, obviously, these teams are much different than they were last year. We see a lot of turnover in college, but most of the same coaches are there, the same sort of game plans here, and we saw both teams. If we can turn this into hey, the QB's got to convert third downs, I'll take my chances here. And both these two QBs that I consider to be mediocre to maybe a little bit above average, not the best, but you look at A&M only allowed 2.8 yards per carry last week. Miami, 2 yards per carry. So both teams were able to control the ground against inferior opponents. Obviously, bigger tasks today to stop the run, but if you can get them into second and longs, maybe even third and longs, it's going to be hard to convert to kind of get those drives going. I think both teams are going to be locked in here. They don't have to worry about maybe looking ahead to next week. Both teams have a cupcake on their schedule next week as well. It's their first big game. I think the offenses are a little shaky. Give me the under 51.5 points. But Logan, what's your second play of the weekend going to be?
Yeah, I like your total, but I have a total as well, and I'm taking the over between these two teams. I think this is going to be a really fun game between Appalachian State and UNC. I'm taking the over 58 points, minus 110 odds on BetMGM, currently your best value there. Now, I think there are going to be a lot of points in this game. The over, to me, is the best bet to make. You could lay a big number with North Carolina. I don't hate that one as well, but look at what they did last year. And I'm not normally a look at what they did last year kind of guy, but I just cannot ignore the score last year. UNC won that game 63-61. Not an ounce of defense was played that day. And I would love if we could get something close to that. I mean, if we look at these two offenses this year, I definitely think they're capable of hitting this over. And at 58, I think, could it be trapping us into taking the over? Maybe a little bit, but I just don't see where the defense is going to come. Look at UNC, 437 yards of total offense against a very formidable South Carolina defense. That's an SEC defense that they just took up and down the field last week, and they scored at will. I can only imagine what they're going to get against this dream matchup in Appalachian State. Appalachian State's defense allowed 360 yards and 24 points to Gardner Webb last week. Yikes. I mean, to say UNC could go out and put up 45, 50 points in this one isn't all that bold of a prediction. Their offense is certainly capable of it. Can they keep the pedal on the metal? And I think they do in this one. Look at App State offense. They're going to be starting quarterback Joey Aguilar, who's going to be making the start after their quarterback got injured last week. He came off the bench and actually looked okay, right? He last week, Aguilar 4 touchdowns. And the offense scored 45 touchdowns. So they didn't really miss a beat on this, or they scored 45 points last week. They didn't really miss a beat, even with the starting quarterback going down. Next man up, I think Appalachian State will be able to move the ball on UNC. And look at UNC's defense. Yes, in the scoreboard, they looked pretty impressive, and even in the eyeball test, they look impressive versus what they did against South Carolina. But even if you look in the box score, though, they still gave up 351 yards to South Carolina. So it's not like they absolutely shut down South Carolina. I don't think they're going to necessarily shut down Appalachian State. And even if they are up big in this game, maybe they do let their foot off the gas a little bit. Appalachian State playing from behind, sure. I'd allow any sort of garbage touchdowns, anything. I've already been backdoored in college football enough in week 1 and even week 0. If you play college football unders, you'll learn that there's a lot more bad beats than in overs. A lot of times, these defenses don't try as hard in the third and fourth quarter, especially if they got a big lead. I could see Appalachian State chipping away at UNC's lead and definitely backdooring us for the over. So I do really like the over in that one. But Austin, what else are you going with today?
Yeah, I mean, Logan, we're both degenerates. There's games on Friday. We don't have a lot of plays in there. So, hey, I'm going to target a Friday game, one of the biggest ones, I think the biggest one on Friday night. And hopefully this one hits. And if it doesn't, and you're maybe watching Saturday morning, you can fast forward to Logan's next pick. But I like Illinois and Kansas, taking the under 57.5 points in this one. It's about minus 110 on DraftKings. Love this under spot here. Like I said, Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time game. Now, obviously, I can only predict who's going to start for Kansas. It should be Jalen Daniels. Obviously, this is a guy that people have Heisman hopeful for. He was out last week due to a back injury that was lingering on through the off season into their first game. I think he's back, and I assume he's back. If he isn't, I'll take it. But I think he will be back here today. And this Illinois defense has to step up. Last week, gave up 28 points to Toledo. Just don't think they took him serious. Toledo has a decent offense, but I just don't think they were too locked in. They're going to be locked in here on this road showdown on Friday night. And like I said, Jalen Daniels is a very good quarterback. They'll have their work cut out for him. But this is an Illini team that just struggled, but did see a dual threat quarterback like Jalen Daniels last week. Now, Jalen Daniels is probably one of the best quarterbacks they'll see all year long, but still, they saw a dual threat guy, struggled last week. I expect them to make some adjustments, and they have a dual threat QB of their own. But I think coming off an injury, how healthy will Jalen Daniels be? I don't really know. I mean, he's coming into this year obviously with high aspirations, and people have a lot of lofty goals for him. But this isn't an Illini defense that was really, really good last year. They just think they entered the year. They have a new defensive coordinator who I believe coached their cornerback last year, but I think they'll be better this year. I mean, we look at Illinois' defense last year. They allowed just a 51% completion percentage, 3.3 yards per carry. So they were stuffing the run, not allowing a lot of completions, really getting teams off the field. That's the reason they were like top 5, I believe, in scoring defense. So I expect that defense to be back here. And then we're going to ask the Illinois offense, which is one that I don't really trust a whole lot. We see this team. This wants to run the ball. In my opinion, if this game becomes a shootout, Illinois is going to have a tough time winning against Jalen Daniels. They have the best player on the field, in my opinion, Jalen Daniels. So I think this Illinois offense is going to just try to run the football, limit the possessions, and trust their defense to be able to do their thing. We saw last week they ran the ball 35 times, only 26 pass attempts, and this was a Kansas defense that actually was decent against the run last week. 2.7 yards per carry allowed to Missouri State. Obviously, Missouri State's not the kind of caliber they'll see out of Illinois, but still, I think the Illini offense will run the football, chew that clock, try to get Jalen Daniels off the field, and I just don't I'm not counting on Illinois to be able to convert in the red zone. They can get down there as much as they want. They're kicking field goals. That's beautiful for an under set at 57.5. This is a lot of points for an Illinois defense. I expect to be much better than it was last week. So look, I'll take the under here. I just don't think the Illini can afford a shootout. This is about a plus 3.5. The Illinois Fighting Illini on the road. I think they got a good chance of winning this one outright, but I think it has to be a lower scoring game. So second under on the card. I know it's yucky, but a Friday night under, who wants to root for no points? That will be me, but give me the under 57.5. But Logan, you got a third pick, plus you're putting the team on upset alert. Where are you going?
Yeah, for my third pick, there's going to be a theme here. I'm taking underdogs, and the first underdog that I like, I'm going to take it with the points. I'm taking Tulane plus 7.5, minus 105 odds on Caesars, currently your best value. Now, this spread could fluctuate a little bit, but I do like the touchdown and the hook that we get on this one. I really just think this game is going to mean a lot more to Tulane. This is kind of like their mini little, Super Bowl, their little mini bowl game before even bowl season. Tulane has a big-time SEC opponent coming into their home stadium. I think this sets up very poorly for Ole Miss, and I think Tulane will come out with their hair on fire and play this game really tough. I like the experience Tulane also has with their signal caller at quarterback, Michael Pratt. I mean, that's a guy I've backed before, and I've had a lot of success backing him and Tulane. Last week, look at Pratt, 294 yards and 4 touchdowns against South Alabama. Sure, not the caliber of opponent that Ole Miss is, but this offense is still they have some continuity, and I love the continuity with a nice, experienced quarterback like Pratt. Even if this game does turn into a shootout, which it's definitely supposed to kind of be a shootout. If you look at the over under for this game, it's set high. It's set high, of course. But Tulane has the offense to go blow for blow with Ole Miss. I don't think they're going to back down at all in this one. It's also important just to look at what Tulane did last year. Tulane hung 46 on USC. They hung 45 on UCF, and those were important games to close out the season. They've played with big time opponents. They've played those big games, and they never back down. I think that's what's going to come against Ole Miss today. Ole Miss's defense didn't get any sort of test last week. They played Mercer. Congrats. You got to play the teams on your schedule, but Mercer is definitely not the caliber of offense that Tulane is. And I'm not convinced Ole Miss's defense is much better than they were at the end of last year. To end this season, Ole Miss's defense last year gave up 30-plus points in 3 out of their last 4 games. So again, if this turns into a shootout, Tulane can certainly go punch for punch with them, and they can keep it within that one score possession, which is kind of what we need in this one. If we look at Ole Miss's offense, yeah, they hung up 73 against Mercer. I mean, again, very lopsided outcome in that one. But Tulane's defense, mostly upperclassmen, mostly starters that have seen a lot of playing time at the collegiate level. And again, I just think they're going to come out and they're going to have all sorts of game plans to contain Ole Miss's high-powered offense and at least keep this game within the touchdown and the hook. Again, I put emphasis on the 7.5 because I could see this game easily being a 7-point game or even a 3-point game. Maybe we do get lucky. Maybe this game does go into overtime or something like that. I do really like Tulane plus the 7.5, and I think that's a good bet to make. But Austin did mention I have an upset alert pick. And I like Tulane as an underdog, but there's another underdog I like. I'm putting Oregon on upset alert because I like Texas Tech on the money line, plus 205 odds on DraftKings. I mean, I'm not going all out, all the chips in the table in this one, but I'm saying you better not load Oregon into your parlays and just think it's a leg down, because this Texas Tech team, you can easily overreact what happened last week against Wyoming on the road. Yes, they lost. They lost that game. That was a game they probably shouldn't lose, but they did. And you know what? Wyoming is a scrappy team. They were playing with their hair on fire, kind of like what I think Tulane's going to do. But Texas Tech has a quarterback, and Oregon fans are very familiar with Tyler Shuck, the quarterback for Texas Tech, because he used to be the old Oregon quarterback. He's starting in what I like to call an old-fashioned revenge game. He gets to play his former team, and I think he's definitely going to be up to the task. Last week, Shuck went 34 for 47, 338 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes. So definitely a very capable arm there. And on Oregon's side, at quarterback, it's going to be Bo Nix. And last year, look, man, everyone has their sort of biases about college quarterbacks. My bias to Bo Nix is I just think when the lights are the brightest, he kind of shrinks. He's a turnover waiting to happen. And we look at a few of the Ducks' losses last year. They lost 2 road games in tough situations for Bo Nix. They lost at Washington and at Oregon State. I would not overlook Lubbock, Texas. I think they're going to be absolutely rocking. You got a 7 p.m. Eastern time kickoff in that one with a big-time ranked opponent coming into town. This is a trap game if I've ever seen it for Oregon. I think the price we're getting at Texas Tech money line is too good to pass up. As simply this is an overreaction price to what happened in Wyoming, and overreaction price to Oregon hanging 80 on their very inferior opponent. So I've watched enough college football. You find value in the underdogs. I'd be careful this week on a lot of those like 6-7 point favorites. Just saying, college football is crazy like that. But Austin, what else you got for us?
Yeah, Logan, love the upset alert pick. I hope Texas Tech pulls it through. And I'm going to end up this video, a long one, with 2 player props. Let's dive into the first one. And a lot of you guys were asking for some player props, the people that are on the PrizePicks, Sleepers, Underdog Fantasy. I'm going to deliver a couple player props per week. We got 2 of them. Let's start with this guy, Jeff Sims, the QB for Nebraska. I like his over 64.5 rushing yards, which is minus 114 on FanDuel. You can find this on FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet365. All those books should have a line there. Now, there are some specific states. If you're like, you just list the book and I can't find it. Some specific states do not allow you to bet college football props. I have no idea why. I don't make the rules. I wish I did. I would let everyone bet them, but I don't make the rules. If you are on PrizePicks, Sleeper, Underdog Fantasy, it should be on all those different apps. If you want to sign up for any of them, use our code COS. You get 100% deposit match. All those details down below. But let's talk about Jeff Sims, who obviously I want some action in this Colorado game because it's going to be big. Obviously, Colorado, one of the biggest stories from week 1, and I want to have some action in this game, and I think they're going to have their work cut out for him against Jeff Sims. Now, Jeff Sims, got to say say what it's worth. Didn't look good last week. They obviously lost a very low-scoring game against Minnesota. Minnesota's defense, much better than my opinion, and I think all year long you'll know that's much better than Colorado. But still, Sims, still 91 rushing yards on 19 carries. He did lose 26 rushing yards due to sacks. Yes, if you're taking a QB rushing prop, you will lose yards due to sacks. However, this is a Colorado defense that had 0 sacks last week, and they faced basically a pocket passer in Chandler Morris. So I'm not too worried about Jeff Sims being able to escape those. We already saw him get sacked multiple times, lose nearly 30 yards, and he still crushed this line. I think he will be passing it a little bit more than he did last week, but still, 19 carries is pretty good. 16 of those, a lot of them were designed runs, which is why I like him to be able to get it done today against Colorado on Saturday. The Buffaloes are a team that allowed 262 rushing yards last weekend against TCU. And like I said, I don't think Sims runs the ball 19 times. If he does, I don't really know what's going to happen for Nebraska. But at the same time, they had several designed runs. It's not like it was him dropping back. The Minnesota defense was clamping up everyone. He was like, dang, I got to run and for it. They had a lot of different QB reads, a lot of different draws and stuff like that to get the ball. And Jeff Sims, a guy that were transferred over from Georgia Tech, get him the ball and let him run up the football field. And he's a very talented runner. I really like his over 64.5 rushing yards. And then my other one, we're going to go to a running back, though, for this one. It's going to be Audric Estime of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I like his over in rushing yards as well. 79.5 rushing yards to be exact, minus 114 on FanDuel. He's the running back for the Irish. And like I said, it's available in some states on a bunch of different books: FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet365, also on the PrizePicks, Underdog, Sleeper, you name it. But let's talk about Estime, who's going to go out here for this Irish team. And through 2 weeks, looked pretty good. He's leading this Irish attack. Last year, he had to split it. This year, he's the number one back, and we've seen in 2 massive blowouts when they won by 39 and 53 points. Today, they only got a 7.5 point spread on Saturday, so they expect this game to be a little bit closer, and that's kind of better for us. I mean, obviously, we want the Irish to be winning. We don't want them in a negative game script where they're not running the football, but if this is a closer game, we've seen Estime not play on some of the fourth quarter drives, but still, he's been able to do pretty well in 2 games. 16 carries for 95 yards against a stout Navy front 7, and 13 carries for 116 yards last week versus Tennessee State. Obviously, a tougher matchup here today, but his rushing attempts set to 16.5. That's a line he's gone under in both 2 games so far. So they expect him to get the ball a little bit more. He averaged 5.9 yards per carry last year. When he saw 12 or more carries, which I obviously think he sees at least 16, close to 16, he's 5-1 to this line going over. His only miss was 76 yards. So look, this NC State team's going to have their work cut out for him. This is a guy that's seeking contact. He's not trying to zoom past everyone. He's seeking the contact. He's going to try to run through you. And then the second half, that could be where we see a lot of these chunk yards come. We saw NC State just give up like a 71-yard rush last week. I think that we're going to see a big day out of Audric. So give me his over in rushing yards as well. And I'm actually on Sleeper. I'm going to parlay both of these 2 guys to get it done. This is you actually get the 3.15 extra money, whereas if you were taking in like PrizePicks or Underdog Fantasy, you only get the 3 extra money, so a little bit of an extra payout there. I'll take my chances there. Sleeper also has the free square for Christian McCaffrey to get 1 yard, so if you wanted to use that on Sunday, definitely take advantage of it. Sleeper's in a ton of different states. If you want to use our code COS, you also get a 100% deposit match up to $100. I'll be using that Sleeper free square in our NFL videos, but just figured I'd put it out there. If you want to use it, you get that also if you want to tail me on Sleeper. But either way, that's going to wrap it up. It was an action-packed video. We had a ton of content. Hopefully we have a great Saturday. If you want to check out our NFL Best Bets videos, those should be live right after this one goes live a little bit later on in the afternoon. So I'll put them up on the screen if you do want to check out what we got rocking for Sunday in the NFL. The NFL's back. And a reminder about Bet365. If you want to sign up, get those $365 of bonus bets, all linked down below, top of the description. But either way, let's have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys back in the next one. Peace.